The Smith & Wesson Model 36 Chief Special. Let's check it out. Smith & Wesson introduced the Model 36 in 1950, and it was called the Chief Special from 1950 to 1957. The name came from a huge conference that was put on by law enforcement where Smith & Wesson actually introduced this handgun, and the members actually chose the name Chief Special. From that time, this has become one of Smith & Wesson's most popular designs, especially with revolvers, and it's still extremely popular. But yet there has been a lot of changes over the years. Now, this particular model was made in 1953, and it has all the old school features. But really, overall, this is still the exact same design that you're going to find with a Model 36 or Model 60 in the stainless steel even today. Now, this is an all-steel frame pistol, and it has some heft to it. But a lot of the Model 36 or J frames are made in aluminum alloy, which makes it really light, easy to carry. But one of the things about this steel is that it helps tame the recoil. These little small pistols can have a lot of muzzle flip, but especially with the aluminum frame models, you know you're shooting, even though 38 is not really what they consider a very potent round, it's definitely a great self-defense round in jacketed hollow points and plus P. Now, a lot of people still carry these in law enforcement, but typically as a backup. It's great on the ankle, it's great just as a gun tucked away, or even in a pocket. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons why I feel that having a small little 5-shot revolver is an excellent choice as a backup, even as a civilian. Now, I picked this up at my local gun shop for a very good price, but these can bring a premium. One of the big things about these pistols is the quality of workmanship, but also a lot of the hand fitting. And so that has really brought the price up today. In the 1970s, these were coming in at $110. Now these are bringing about $850. But even at that price, they sell these as fast as they can produce them. Now, these little Model 36 Smith & Wesson revolvers have just stood the test of time, and they're 38 special, 5-shot, very minimal, used again by a lot of law enforcement with a lot of civilians. People really like these firearms because they're small, they're compact, they're easy to carry. And 38 special, is a medium caliber, but even during the time when these were produced, it was a pretty decent caliber for self-defense. Now, with a lot of the jacketed hollow points and the different loads plus P, this is really an effective round. But one of the things I love about a good revolver, and let's go ahead and check to make sure the gun's unloaded. We're going to push our latch, open it up, and the gun is empty. Is that no matter what ammunition that's 38 special that you put in here, it can be super weak loads, it can be plus P loads, and it's going to function. That's one thing about semi-automatics is they can be finicky with certain type ammo, especially if you get some weaker loads, shot shells, things like that, you can shoot in here. Now, one of the things about this particular pistol is that it's not necessarily plus P rated, but it will take some plus P ammunition. With the new Smith & Wessons, they are rated for plus P. And to be honest, I think this is a little bit of a stronger action. But it's just not rated plus P. But any of these small revolvers, if you shoot a lot of plus P, it's just going to start to wear the gun out after time. And that's just physics. Now, one of the things about this is that beautiful bluing. And this one's used, it's been around the block a few times, it has a few scuffs, but it still has that beautiful blue finish, that hot salt bluing. and it's one of the things that I really miss about firearms. The Cerakote's nice, it holds up really well, it's better than bluing as far as corrosion resistance, but there's just something about that bluing that makes it a real classic. And this also came in a nice nickel finish as well. Now they did start making the Model 60, which is in a stainless steel. And now they make a number of different J-frame Smith & Wesson revolvers that are aluminum alloy frame. And here we have a Centennial. This is called the Airweight, and it is really light. Has a steel cylinder and a steel barrel, shrouded hammer, and that way it's snag free. So I can actually shoot this out of my pocket. And I have some of the VZ grips on here just to make it look nice. But really, as far as the function, as far as all the details, they are very similar. And the new Model 36s have the upgraded details that this Centennial has. Now this is the Model 442. It's a 38 special, but they also make 357 Magnum models about the same size. Now one of the things you'll notice is this latch, and this is actually an advanced latch compared to the old latch right here on the Smith & Wesson. And some of the newer ones, they're more curved in, it doesn't have that slant. Also you'll notice this little safety right here, and this is called the Hillary hole affectionately. And this, if you take a key and you turn it, it will lock the action. You can disable that, and they even make a plug for it. But I'm personally not a fan of that. On the old models, it was just, you know, responsibility, guys. You have the responsibility to take care of your firearms. And that's one of the things that I really like about this as well. But, you know, no shroud over the ejector rod on these small pistols like this, like they do on some of the larger ones. But overall, I mean, guys, seriously, these are really close together in the way they're set up. Now, you do have a serrated trigger on the Model 36 that you don't have on the newer models, and they're smooth. And one of the big reasons is these were actually made to a lot of times fire with the hammer pulled back in that single action mode. And really, if you're doing a lot of double action shooting, this will wear on your finger. And so the smoothness really is more for double action. And also this area right here that's been covered. This is a gap, and it actually makes your finger to an unnatural angle on the pistol. With that gap filled, it brings your hand down just a little bit and allows you to get a more natural grip on the trigger. Now, that's one thing that a lot of these models come with, these rubberized grips. In fact, I have a Model 642 that has the rubberized grips from Smith & Wesson. But you can get these wood grips, and it does make it smaller. But I'm going to tell you guys, you put that rubberized grip on there, and it's a pleasure to shoot. You shoot with this wooden grip, and it's pretty stout. You know, even with 38 Special. And if you get up to the jacketed hollow points, it's not as much fun to shoot, but it does have the concealability over, you know, your rubber grip. In fact, here we have a Pachmayr grip, and when I bought this pistol, it did have the Pachmayr grip already installed. And so these I bought at a local gun show just to put on here because I just like that classic look. But if I'm going to shoot, I will take my Pachmayrs and put them on because it just makes it a heck of a lot more comfortable. Now here's some Smith & Wessons mixed in with some other different revolvers. One is the 642. It's one of my favorites, super lightweight. This is the 442 in blue, and this is stainless. And this is the grip that typically comes on new Smith & Wesson J-frame revolvers. These are not Model 36s again, and there's a lot of designations with different models. And then here we have an Airweight. This is actually a 22 Magnum. And I believe I have a 22 as well. This is a super light gun because it just has inserts and then it has aluminum. And so this thing is just featherweight. And then we have one of the Rossies, and this is really very close to the original Smith & Wesson. One of the things it does have is a shroud here for the ejector rod. But these were great guns when they were being produced, and in fact, this was my first revolver in the 3-inch model that I ever bought. And then we have a Colt, and this is one of the Cobras. It's one of their new models, and different type latch system. And of course, you know, Colt has a whole array of different little small snub-nosed revolvers. And then we have one of the Kimber, and this is the K6S, 357 Magnum, and 38. But there is a lot of Smith & Wesson revolvers that are 38, 357. But I mean, there are so many different options, and this is really just a few. Now this is what they call the 2-inch barrel, and they make a 3-inch barrel. This is actually 1.875 inches in length. It is a short barrel. The 3-inch barrel has a little more control over it, a little more sight radius, and I like 3-inch revolvers, but again, this gives you that really compact size, and that's what this is about. I mean, this is made as a plainclothes, concealable, very easy to carry, and perfect backup firearm. So, you know, this is, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but one of the things about these handguns is that the all-steel frame is heavy. And with the light frame, I mean, they're super light. And they started making the air weight in 1951. So it was pretty early on. And they also make the bodyguard, which has a rounded shroud over the hammer, and it has a hammer that you can actually pull back, but it makes it snag-free. But it just gets large to me. I really like this size. A lot of guys will actually bob their hammer, and so it's just double action only. And speaking of double, single action, first off is your single action is what a lot of people do. They bring the hammer back. It's a really light, crisp trigger. It's very easy. With the double action, that means this trigger will pull the hammer into the rear position. And you can see it is a very stout, heavy trigger pull. And that's really the safety. That way, you know, you're going to have to mean to fire this pistol. And so that's one of the differences. A lot of guys will take it and they'll do this when they get ready to fire toward accuracy. And when it comes to sights, I mean, these are very close to the frame, and you just have a small little groove that starts right here with a little bit of a notch, and you can line up your front sight. On this one, we have it actually painted. It came that way, and I really like that. I mean, it really helps to see that front sight, but it's just a blade, and it's close to the frame. One thing you'll notice is there's a touch of rust right there, and that's one of the things about bluing is you need to make sure that you maintain your firearm more than you do even modern firearms. And so you just need to be careful because they can rust. Now this is considered the round butt, and so it has a very minimal grip to it. The square butt actually comes out more like some of the larger revolvers. It's easier to shoot, and that's one of the reasons why they put it on there, but it does make the grip bigger. And for me, I like minimal. If I want to add something like this, I can, but if I don't, I mean, I've got a very slim trim package. So it just gives you more choices. Again, this latch is one of the old style latches. The gun, again, was made in 1953, and so as we hit the latch, we just open up the cylinder, and it freely spins. Then we have our ejector rod. It pushes the spent brass out, or even if you have loaded rounds and you want to get them out, you can just pop this. And so, again, this makes it fairly slow to reload. And so we put one round at a time. You can get speed loaders, which make it faster, and you can put all 5 rounds. But one of the things about that is you need to really become proficient with a speed loader. And you close it up, and then it's ready to fire. And then, again, just hit that ejector rod, and those will fall out. Spent shells, typically, once they're fired, they get a little bit into the cylinder, a little tight, because of the round coming out and the explosion, and so it's good to be able to just pop those out. Serrated right here on the tip, and then we have our lockup right there. I mean, guys, I'll tell you, these revolvers are just incredibly well made, and that's why Smith & Wesson has stood the test of time for so long. Beautiful walnut grips, checkering, the Smith & Wesson medallion, and you know, just a very nice firearm. One of the funny things, though, and I was at a gun show this weekend, and the guy was talking about these grips. A lot of people have taken their grips off to put on rubberized grips. Now they're looking to make the gun back to original. And these grips were $67, and they're used and they're old grips. So, you know, that's one of the things, if you're going to retrofit your gun to an original size, instead of these fairly inexpensive Packmeyers, which I think, and then of course Hogue and a bunch of different companies make grips for these. But I really like the looks of this as far as this type pistol. Because to be honest with you, for my concealed carry, I'm going to carry the Model 442, which I do. I love this gun. Now the older Model 36 is a pin barrel, and that was the way they traditionally did it. They would screw it in, pin it, and it set it right at the right position for the headspace. This is still a very strong way to attach a barrel. They went away from that to just the threaded barrel. One of the issues with threading a barrel, though, is it has to be threaded exactly right to be able to headspace. But with modern technology, that's not a problem. So both of these are very strong. Just because this is pinned doesn't mean it's any weaker. It's just as strong. It's just that the process has changed to just thread it. Again, on these older revolvers, we do have the firing pin attached to the hammer. Typically, you're not going to have any problems, but these can break. With the new Smith & Wesson revolvers, it's actually a floating firing pin. So you have a flat hammer, and the firing pin is inside the frame. And actually, it's a little bit safer as well to carry. But with this, you just have that firing pin, so you don't want to dry fire these pistols, at least without something, a snap cap or something in the chamber. Doesn't hurt it to do it a few times, but a steady diet of it can damage the firing pin. Let's take a little closer look at the trigger pull. It is a heavy double action. And so as we pull it, the hammer comes back and it fires, but you also notice that the cylinder rotates to the next round. And as I let it go, it locks up. It does have a good lockup. There's a teeny bit of play, but not bad at all. And then we have our single action, which you just pull the hammer back manually, and then when you fire it, it is a real crisp light break. And again, that's one of the things that most people do when they're shooting for accuracy. They'll pull that hammer back. Or maybe on the first shot. Sometimes they pull the hammer back, especially in movies. But really, if you're going to be in a self-defense situation, typically, you're going to fire it double action. And one of the things that happens with a lot of people, especially women, for some reason they tend to go for these type firearms. And I always advise to first let them pull that trigger, and honestly, they need to shoot it, because most people that are inexperienced have a hard time with this firearm. It needs to be mastered, and once you do, you're able to really control the recoil. You know how it fires. But a lot of women, in fact, I've had a number of friends that went out and bought their wives one of these, or their wives wanted one of these, and it ended up either being sold or added to the guy's collection. So it's according to what you want to do. But I highly recommend that you go ahead and especially test that trigger pull. These are very simple firearms. I mean, all you got to do is pull that trigger, but you got to be able to pull the trigger. But then once you pull the trigger, then you got to be able to handle the recoil. And with this grip, I would highly recommend switching to a more rubberized grip if you're going to carry this for concealed carry. Let's check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. I'm hoping I can get it. Sometimes it'll exceed the limit. 10 pounds, 1.1 ounces. 10 pounds, 6.7 ounces. Now let's try single action. 2 pounds, 9.2 ounces. I mean, it is really light. Smith & Wesson Model 36 Chief Special. 19.4 ounces. We'll try the Centennial Airweight Model 442. 15.4 ounces. We really appreciate Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammunition, all made in the USA. Biggest suppliers of ammunition in the country. We're shooting some 38 Special. We're going to shoot it with the grip, the rubberized grip, and then we're going to shoot it with the wood grips. So we just wanted to kind of just get a good feel for, are the grips worth it, because they are larger, and but it does make a difference when you're shooting. There's just something about these old Smiths that I just love. I love the double action, but also like the single action. I like that smooth pull back. It's a small gun. A lot of times they came with the wood grips. They're a little bit difficult to shoot that way, to be honest. They're very small. And so having that rubberized grip makes a big difference. And you shoot them side by side, you'll know the difference. The sights are very rudimentary. I mean, they're combat sights. Now this one has, somebody put orange on there, which actually makes it show up better. But you need to learn how to shoot that double action. A lot of people want to cock it, you know, and fire it to make it a little more accurate. But you need to know, because this is what you're going to do in a self-defense situation. You're just going to pull that trigger, just like that. So you need to practice that way. Don't just practice pulling it back. When it comes to single action, that's just pulling the hammer back before each shot. It keeps a lot less trigger pull, and typically it's more accurate because it's less trigger pull. So bring it up, pull that hammer back. And one thing, I missed one, and that's one of the inherent problems with single action, is you're pulling that hammer back and you're firing sometimes before you're ready. So again, you need to train shooting that double action. That is the way to shoot this gun. You can go to the range and play around with single action, but double action is the key for these pistols, or these revolvers. Now, one of the big things about a small 38 that to me makes this a very viable option for a backup. One of the big things is when you're out and about, you have your sidearm. Carrying a small little revolver like this, maybe in an ankle holster, you know, maybe in a pocket, or you know, you can put it on the inside the waistband, and having that ready. And let's say that you have someone with you that's not carrying. Let's say you have a teenage son that is very capable with a firearm, but obviously not allowed to carry one. This makes a great firearm to be able to give to them in a self-defense situation, at least for their personal self-defense, but also, you know, as a force multiplier. And so it gives them the opportunity to defend themselves. Yet you have your concealed carry that you're ready to use. Plus, it's very simple. And that's one of the big things about this is it is only 5 shots, but it's super simple. You just pull that trigger, it goes bang. And if you want to pull the hammer back, you can do that. That's about as complicated as it gets. Yes, when reloads come around, it's kind of slow. A lot of officers carry them in their left pocket or in their weak side. And when they come up to a vehicle, it's a lot easier to be able to reach in your pocket and pull out that little small 38 or 357 Magnum than it is to pull off your sidearm, especially if you're right-handed, in case things go south. And so it makes it really quick to deploy. And especially if you're in a more rural area where there's not a lot of backup. Having a backup is important. And honestly, with a lot of the air weights, I mean, you wouldn't even hardly know that you have it on you. So this is still a very viable self-defense option, even though it's relegated to your backup typically. A lot of guys still carry this as their primary self-defense firearm. Now, there are a lot of holster options with these pistols. They've been around again for 72 years, so there's a lot of different choices out there. Of course, you've got your just belt holster, easy to use outside the waistband. Inside the waistband, leather holster. Pocket holsters are really easy. This is called the Ghost holster. I don't think these are actually made any longer, but you can actually slide this in and around your waist. It's a minimal way to carry it. One of the ways I really like to carry it is an ankle rig, which I have an Apache from DeSantis. That is a very comfortable way to carry it, and I just left it at the house. But these have a ton of different options, and then you have a lot of grip options. Again, I mean, this is the old tried and true, but VZ grips, Hogue, you can find Packmeyers. I mean, there's a ton of different options out there on the market. And of course, ammo choices are through the roof when it comes to 38 Special. You've got a lot of different just regular small target loads. You've got shot shells, and these are easy to reload for. For years, I had a little Rossi 38, model 88, and I used to reload for that thing like crazy, and they're just simple to reload. And so that's one of the things, again, you don't have to worry about reliability. You just want to make sure that the gun can handle the loads that you're loading. And there's a lot of self-defense ammunition that's not necessarily plus P rated, and this is not. Jacketed hollow points are great. If you're going to carry whatever your self-defense ammunition is, make sure that you train with it, because it's going to give you a big surprise if you don't. But typically, your standard jacketed hollow points in standard plus P, standard 38 Special, will work great in these guns, but obviously you can shoot a number of rounds through there with plus P. It's just going to wear your gun out quicker. Well guys, the Model 36, and of course this blue edition here, again 1953, it has all the same old features, the exposed hammer. I mean, there's a lot of things about this that are not quite up to today's modern safety standards. But a couple of things that it doesn't have is that Hillary hole, which I despise, and then also the bluing, the hand fitting, and the craftsmanship of these older revolvers honestly surpass the assembly line, quick to put together firearms. That's in my opinion. And one thing that I really love is that old craftsmanship. So whether you get one of the old Smith & Wesson revolvers or even their new revolvers, which again are excellent, the prices have risen again because of the hand fitting, because of the parts that have to be fitted together, but they're still a part of the gun world that you really don't want to miss out on. Having a good revolver, whether you carry it or not, just gives you another insight into the world of firearms, and I really think that's cool. But with these small little snubbies, this is a great backup firearm. And again, with today's ammunition, it gives you a lot of choices. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic. And just a little touch of rust, which I need to clean that out. The way these are made, I mean, these are just excellent firearms, guys, and I'll tell you, you just got to know it. This is excellent. And guys, if you're carrying a plus P round, which we have here, nope, but just a classic legend in the firearm world. Just like they were back in the 1950s. No, they're not. During the time that it was like there during the time.